All right, welcome back. Well, hi everyone, welcome back. Hi guys, people in the back, can you hear me well? Good. Okay, cool. So, all right, let's get started. Now, well, today we are doing chapter 10, which is such a cool tool to look at, and you know what, it's gonna be pretty useful for you, sure. I run into same situations, some problems multiple times, and then I would have to find a way to like load a large amount of data into Excel in order to work with it. So it's ongoing problems, and then the tools that you or the features that you're gonna see today, it just basically help you with those things. So real life struggle, and I think this chapter in this module is just perfect for all kind of data analysis tasks that you might run into now or in the future. But we tend to work with larger and larger data, and then when Excel is quick and great way to do that, but sometimes they struggle. So I will show you today. I will show you the slide of the chapter 10, which is in ads in managing ads in and data source from multiple source, and we also going to talk about a color pivot and also 3D chart on Thursday. I will show you on slide. We show you with the simulation training number 1, and then I will show you with real Excel. So it will switch back and forward to let you guys see what's going on in simulation training and what is this real Excel and what is the real world problems that you might face. Okay, so here, by the way, people on WebEx, can you hear me? Check. Yes, okay, thank you. All right, all right. So here's the schedule. Let me remind you where we are in this semester. So this is Excel chapter 10 or module 10. And we're in this week. Now, next week is the last module of Excel. And then on next week, Thursday, we will do exam review, M2. And the week after that, we're starting doing Access, Microsoft Access, which is a database. And then we're also going to have exam 2. Cool? Now, this time, this semester, I would say that exam 2 get a little bit pushed back down here because I add more stuff in Excel, and I think I'm glad doing that. And then I got requests for doing this as well. I mean, faculty from, especially from College of Business, they do more of the data analytics, business analytics, and you guys gonna need this portion of this advanced Excel. Okay. Now, this one is called Power Add-ins and Managing Data. So let's take a look. So go into this module 10, and I have few project files as well. So I would like to show you, and please download those files and work along with me. So here, this is chapter 10, right? And let me close things from here. Okay. Now, chapter 10. And here's the slides. The slide is already here. And then, so what we're going to talk about is look like this. Okay, some topic. So we're going to do some import data from external sources. So, well, normally you have like data readily available in your Excel file. So that's great. You can just start working on it right away. But a lot of time you have to import that or extract data from somewhere else. Now we're going to talk about it, and then we'll show you a different kind and how to import and connect to the database, and then using Excel to as the interface for those database as well. Now, then we're gonna use Power Pivot. You remember Power Pivot, right? We've been doing pivot table in chapter 5, right? And pivot table is great, easy to use to drag and drop. But when you have such a large amount of data, then it's gonna be tricky. So pivot table would not be able to handle that. Also, if you have multiple data sources, then pivot table cannot handle that as well. So it can only handle like one sort of data. Now, if you have multiple sources, then you're gonna need a Power Pivot, which is like a one step advanced from pivot table. We show you that, and then add data into data model. If, well, some of you might remember that when you add something to pivot table, there's a one checkbox at the bottom of that dialog box. Say ask you that do you want to add it to data model or not. So data model, it's just like a space or like an environment to prep your data, I would say. So let's say if you have multiple sources, you can put that, you have to put that into a data model, and then in that you can use like a relationship to identify relationship between among those data, and then Power Pivot will be able to get the data from that model. So basically, if you have more than one source, you just put that into a model and then figure out relationship, and then Power Pivot will be able to pick it up. So it's more like related to Power Pivot. So regular pivot table don't need that data model. All right, it's nothing fancy when you see it. It's pretty straightforward, but it's just another name for you to get yourself familiar with. Now, and then we'll show you pivot table and pivot chart using Power Pivot. So, and then also 3D map on Thursday. Now, let me show you some preview of the 3D map. This is kind of quite new on Excel, which is pretty cool. So pivot table, Power Pivot, and here's 3D map. So you can plot a map on actual like geolocation, using geolocation, or I think it's also like state cities, and Excel is already like recognize those geolocation based on what you provide. And then you can also do something like this as well. So it's like column chart on something based on map, or can twist that to like flow style, which is pretty cool. And you know what? After you're done with this course, I think you're gonna do pretty good on track with data analytics. Now, if you really want to go on, I mean, if you need to go further than this, for example, making an interactive dashboard as your like data product. So, well, most of the tasks you can done with Excel, but then if you need like a live dashboard that your client can interact with, then you might have to go beyond Excel. Then next step into the analytic direction would be those like full blown BI tool. BI is business intelligence. So some of those like two famous BI tool, it's just like Power BI. Anyone heard about that? Soft Power BI and Tableau. Anybody heard about those? Tableau, have you heard about it? No? Okay, so well, I think you will come across that pretty soon though. So basically, Excel can do quite a lot, and um, there is more that it can do more, a bit more advanced than this. Okay, now get back to this. What I'm gonna show you is, well, basically when you have data files, and if it's Excel file, then of course there's no problem. Just double click, right? And but if it's CSV file, so basically a text file with comma separated, which is kind of a standard for storing data in dataset across like different application. So you can export it from somewhere else. It gives you a CSV file, and you can just open it up in Excel normally. But most of the time, unless they're too big, then Excel will not be able to handle that. So in that case, you just have to open a blank Excel file instead, and then go to data and get data. Now in here you have different options to get data from different places. So for example, get this from text slash CSV, and then it will bring you to a data transformation or data import wizard to let you split your data, choose how to split them, and preview your column first. Check your data type for each column, and before you actually put it in Excel. Now, and then well, another one. This is great. I mean, this is kind of new. So it's called Power Queries Editor. So what is this? This is designed to deal with like larger amount of data. So the problem is Excel might not be able to load the whole thing right away. So you may have to transform or reduce something or process them before it can be loaded into Excel. Let me show you. So before we go on, let me show you real situation. So here this is, okay, let me go back to the module 10 first. And then if you scroll down underneath at the bottom of module 10, I got 3 files, small files. So let's download the first two at least, the client info.csv and then broker info.txt. I already downloaded that. So it looked like this. My client info, it's CSV file. Let me explain. So for CSV file, if you, well, well, on my window, I just choose to show the file name extension. So that's why it's also show the extension of the file .csv. So now I know that's CSV because it's look like Excel as well. So when you install Microsoft Excel, they will also associate with the CSV file. Now, if you just double click, then it will just open up in Excel. The problem is CSV file, it's just basically a text file with no formatting. So let's say if I change some style or maybe have some color and then I try to save it. I try to save that. Close. I open the file again. Those colors and formatting is not there. So it's showing here that okay, CSV file it can be saved just only data, but you can save as a XLSX file to be Excel file. Now, another way that I like to show you is I can open this file with some text editors. So in Windows, the most basic text editor is Notepad. So in Mac, I think it's text. I don't remember the name, but they also like basic text editor as well. So text editor is just basically a program to show you what inside the file. And here you go. So this is what inside the CSV file. So basically, text and then separate by comma. And whenever you see a comma, then it means let's go to next column. And this is column head also serve as the first column and so on. So we have serve as first row, sorry. And then we have like how many rows, whatever. All right, so now we still have some space in front here and after, but it will preserve, just basically split by comma. All right, now we have another one. Another one, it's .text. So this is broker info. Let me open that. So this one is different. This is not CSV. So CSV is comma separated value, right? Which is very common, but this one is more like tab separated. Let me show you. So we have, I am pressing like arrow key left and right. When I do this, when I do right, then you see that this is just basically one character, but it's pretty big, right? So it's happened to be tab, not space, but we got a space here. This is a space. This is a space. So what's this meaning of this? It's just basically a separate column separated by tab. Sometimes people do that. So if you, so when you want to import this to Excel, then you have to tell them that, okay, this one is separated by tab. That's all. Now this is tab, and then it's make like 3 column, right? Broker ID, name, and address, city, state, all together. So for the data, it's tab here, and I think this also tab. It's tab here, and but then this is all space. So all this together. All right, we'll come back to this tab separated. Now, let me show you a problem that I faced. This is quite recent problems. It's something like last year. So my problem is, the file is too large to insert into an Excel, which is pretty bad. Now, this is a project that I'm doing, working with the political science faculties. We got funding from that to analyze political ad. So let me show you. Well, the ad itself is not the point, but data came from a project called Google Transparency Report. So what is this? It's basically start from like this is political science and computer science. So start from 2016 election, presidential election. Do you remember Trump versus Clinton? So that is a kind of the first one that people using a lot more social media basically, and the ad data. Well, how candidate like promoting and using ads to communicate with people. Prior to that is not, well, it's more like a broadcast, like a TV, printed media. But in 2016, it started to be much more on social media. And then the problem with it is for those tech companies like Google, Facebook, and so on, they know you more, right? So when you buy ad through this platform, you can micro target people. So they allow you. So you can just like make this ad just for people on specific age group and specific gender, um, specific geographic location and ethnicity and all kind of thing, or even like your interest, because when you browse stuff on Google, Facebook, then they keep track of all that. So, but candidate doesn't have to report anything, so that's become a problem. So we have a project and to analyze that. Basically, long story short, um, so here Google provide data of whatever's political ad that's aired through their network, and then we want to analyze that. But turn out to be the file is so big, so it's, well, you want to play with this, then go ahead. It's public. But then you can also download CSV file here. I already downloaded that. So it looks something like this. It looked like a folder, and I extracted folder, and it looked like this. Now, I have a whole bunch of files here. So the problem is the biggest file. Now, if it's other files, then I can just double click and we'll open it up with Excel. It's work fine. It's all right. It's not too big, but if it's this one, the biggest one, this is very big, then I will show you. Right now, I don't have Excel open. I will show you. I will try to double click it to open it, and most of the time, um, it will crash your Excel or sometimes crash your computers. So they say that last time I tried to open this, is caused some serious errors. Do I still want to open it? Yes. I'll show you. So now let's see my task manager. Start my CPU starting going crazy. So this laptop got a lot of RAM, but it might be able to open. Well, now it looks like it's crashing, not responding. I'm clicking right now, but nothing happened. And then they start to eat up my RAM. So the point is, when you have a large data and you just throw it to Excel, Excel will just try to um, open it on your like memory and your disk, like what they normally do. Now, that method doesn't work well with very large amount of data. So you need to process them first in order to get it to work. Because if not, then it will just crash most of. Oh, they eat all of my 32 gig of RAM, and then it won't open. It's crashing right now. So how to deal with this situation? So normally I would just have to end task or just queue the Excel. Take a little bit. Okay, I think it start to. And is it done? Okay, now Excel is gone. All right, so that's good. Now a better way is this. So I just gonna use open a blank Excel first, and then I'm gonna use that tools to import my data. So I open something blank, and then let me show you with a smaller file first that what is it like. So you go to data and then you get data, or you can have a shortcut here. Open like text CSV file. Okay, click that, and then it will just browse through my download, and my stuff is in here. Okay, let me try with not so big file. For example, this one. So when I double click, it will Well, this tool, it's the Power Queries. It will take only small portion of your data and preview to you first. So this one, it just take like 200 row and kind of try to preview that. Okay, does it look correct to you? And how you gonna split them? This is delimited with comma. Looks okay to me. Look all right to me. So I can edit or I can load it right away. If I want to edit them, then it will go to another one, which is Power Queries Editors, which is, well, we're gonna focus a little bit more on this. This is great. So it can do a lot processing your data, right? Even before you throw into like pivot table for a large amount of data. That's great. So in here, you can do a whole bunch of things. You can split more. You can group them. You can manipulate a lot of your data, and it take like a portion of your data at a time. So you're not like going to bring the whole thing to your system and crash it. It's more advanced for the bigger data source, which is great. Now, let's say I'm done. Oh, by the way, you know what? I can just load this in nicely, or I can do something like a subtotal or pivot table. For example, I have some state here. I can just select this column and I can just call group by, and I can just count number of rows as like rows and value, just like pivot table, and it's count for me nicely. So there's the count number of row that ad appear on each state, or advertiser names appear on each state basically, and I can load this data instead. So you can do a lot of processing, and there you go. So even before you have to throw into pivot table. Okay, now let me close this one. Save, and let me new this blank, and I'm gonna load in the large one. How about that? Get it from text. So this is the big one that it can't even open with Excel. So let me show you. I happen to already know what's inside. So it looks good. Structure. So I click edit for the Power Queries editors. As you can see, it's open fine because it's basically open like small chunk at a time, not the whole thing. And that's why they don't even know how many total rows. I think it's 800,000 rows, almost a million rows, or something like that. Now, my approach will be here, will be this. So since this is ad information through our Google network, but let's say if we want to, if we only care US ad, then I will just filter it. Then it will remove a lot of rows out. And then I have some information here that I already know that I'm not gonna need them. So this is spending USD, I need that. But then after USD, then it will be just like European and others currency. So I don't need them. I would select all those column and I would just remove them. So, and all of my action has been saved as step here. So I can cancel any step, or I can even like save this step for reuse in the future. So if I have a similar structured data, I can just reuse this step without having to like manually do it. All right, so let's say I'm good with this one, and then I would just close and load. Now it will just help me trying to load data in like smaller portion at a time. So manageable size. It will take some time, but it will slowly getting there. So it will eventually work without like crashing my system. As you can see, use CPU, but they don't use all of my RAM. So it really depends. If you have lower RAM, then it will switch to use your disk. Okay, now, so next step, let's go ahead and do the simulation training. So we get things done along the way, right? So let's open MightyLab, and while we're waiting, launch courseware. This is probably done. Oh, not done yet. Click that. Okay, so go to chapter 10, the first one, simulation training. Okay, here you go. So this one is done. As you can see, it's working now without, well, we still have some 600,000 rows, which is a lot, but it's working fine and not crashing. So this is great. So I can do whatever with all of this information. All right, so that is great. Now, if you want to modify further with this, then you can go back to queries and edit. Then it's back to the Power Queries editors that you can transform even more, and remove more or do some transformation of your data. Another thing, it's transpose, which is pretty cool in here. Transpose will switch your rows and column. So normally in Excel, if you want to transport and you have to copy and paste with transpose, sometimes we need to do that if rows versus column is not in our favor. But that action for large data is going to be a nightmare. So in Power Queries will make it work. All right. So let me close out this file. Now, okay, I'm in the MyIT lab. So let's go the first simulation training, chapter 10. Now, in this chapter 10, well, it's not technically difficult, I would say. There's no long and complicated formulas. There's more like show you how to do things. But it's really long instruction. So if you just follow it exactly, then you don't gonna know what's happened anyway. All right, so let's start doing that. So we got 4 questions. Now, first, they want me to, well, this question is about important text files. So we already see that. We just go to data and either go in here, import files and text file, or you can click this one as a shortcut. So it should both work. And this simulation is already show how to import that CSV file, client info. Now let's go to the next screen to show you that, okay, this is with comma delimiters, which look nice. Then just click load. All right, so that's in, and change the name of this sheet. Okay, now next step, the question number 2. Now load data again, but this time it's from a database file. So I know that we haven't talked about database yet, but let me show you. This is the database file .accdb. It's stand for Access Database. So let me open it up. Now, if you're using Windows, you can open it up right away, but if you're using Mac, then too bad that Microsoft never make Microsoft Access for Mac. So, but here's the concept. We will definitely come back to this in 2 weeks. But this is a database application, and how database keep their data, it's actually they create a database. First, it looks like a folder. You can think of it as a folder, and inside a folder there's a file. But in database, it's called a database, like bucket, and then inside is tables. So we have one tables here, and if you double click that table, it's look like somewhat a table in Excel, but it's a database table. Okay. Anyway, so I just want you to see what is actually inside, but we're not gonna do anything with Access just yet. But now we're gonna connect to Excel, and we're gonna still using Excel. Okay, so import that database file or connect to that database file. Go to data and get data, and here's the database. So this one is Microsoft Access that we are going to use in this course. It's pretty famous. It's really easy to use, best for start learning and working with database. Now the rest, it's like all the famous database that you will see that some of them when you're working, when you go to work. So MySQL, I would say it's the most famous because it's also free and open source. Postgres is also free and open source and is a bit faster for large amount of data, better for data analytics tasks. SQL Server is from Microsoft as well. It's for enterprise. And then Oracle, it's their own company. It's like a gold standard for enterprise database. All right, and other it's also, yeah, you heard that. Now this time we're gonna connect to Microsoft Access database, right? And then so Access is keeping in a single file. Keep one database as a one file, which is very convenient, easy to understand. Now we see this is the database and they have there's only one table. So just click that transaction table and import, I think. Just load in. All right, that's all. That's done. And then just rename this sheet to transaction. Transaction. Yay. So question number 3. So such a long instruction all over here, but there's one they want you to transform data. I already showed you in Excel, right? So, okay, with this transaction ID selected, so actually you don't really need to select this one particularly, but in simulation they want you to select anywhere in the table. So if I select somewhere out of the table, then I don't get the table too, right? So basically, this transaction table is the one that have a connection or maintain connection with the database file, because we just make the database like in previous step. All right, select this one, and then on queries, and we click edit. So the connection is still there. When we get data from database, it's called making a query. Sometimes I would say extracting data, but in database they usually call it making a queries and get the data from that query. So this is a query that you still have and maintain. So we open this up, and now in this sample, they want you to fix something. So let me show you this guy. We got date column here, but they also including times. So in database, well, by default, we usually store date as date time. So they have their own like column format, data format. So we should usually call store as date time because it's easier. Because when you have time, then you can just store it just within the same column or same field, right? But let's say, well, seems like when we create this data, they didn't care about putting times in. So we don't have any time information. It's just all like 12 a.m. And we don't want that. So, well, let's just going to change this to just date. So when you change to date, it just means like ignore the rest, ignore the time portion. And we can do that through here. So click this column and change data type, date time to date. All right, now just showing date. So it's more or less like filter it out, basically. And then in real life, you have to change this guy and that guy to like currency format. But in this sample, I think there's already like do that for you. Now close and load that. So it's come back as date only. Nice. Now this is second step already. Click the data tab, and now they want you to get another file. Get broker info.txt in. So go ahead, go data tab and get text/csv file. Now this time get .txt. All right. And by default, this one is we're trying to import a file again, right? By default, it's delimiter or separated by a comma. But in this case, I will show you broker.info.txt. It's a tab separated. So if you separate it by comma, then it would just go put a lot of things into a same columns. Doesn't make sense, right? So we have to choose the correct one. And when I switch to tab, then it's separate nicely into a tab. Cool. That looks great. But then there's another thing here. So in this sample, they say that, okay, we want to do more. And what's that more? It's in the name. That right now it's just like first name, last name together. We want to split them out as well as a first name and last name separately. Make sense? But right now we just separate the whole table with tab. But then we want to do furthermore separation with space. And also I think city and state as well. And then there will be like some extra spaces. So they want you to click edit, right? Edit. Go to edit and select name column. Select the name column and then split column. Now, you know what? This happened from time to time on this simulation. They will let me really select the whole column. So if I click split, then it won't work. And the way to fix this is, maybe I can reset. I can reset. Oh, I have to start from the step one. It's not the best way though. Another way is I can show practice for that particular step, and it will come back to work. Anyway, so I have to redo this step. That's fine. What do I want me to do? Edit queries. And they change this today. Okay. Cool. Now import new broker info with tab. All right. And then edit. And now select name. Okay. Now they let me. So simulation training. It's not real Excel though. Okay. Select name. And then do what? Split column. So we want to split this by delimiters. And we want to keep it as a space because we want to split by space, right? And let's choose this leftmost delimiters, which is mean it will go from left. Now it's really depend on what you like to do. I can see that there's one person that has kind of like initial or middle name here. If you want that to be with the last name, then you do this. If you want that to be with first name, you do rightmost. But now we're gonna do leftmost. So split to name one and name two, and then I think they want to change this to first. Change this to last. Now we make more sense, right? And then next, in the city column number 2, they want you to trim. Select the whole column, and then put this. And then do transform. Pick the format and transform. Transform, format, and trim. Okay. Transform and format. It's here. So it's really long instruction. I did open this practice quite multiple times to get to see exactly what they want to do. Now, so this is actually split first, though it's kind of misleading, but they basically split it first and then they trim out. Trim is mean we remove like blank space from in front and after, left and right. And we'll remove like unused blank space basically. Okay, now they want you to click this one. What is this? This is showing steps. So it's showing multiple steps that you have been doing, and you can change your mind, you can move the step, you can cancel some of the steps. So they want to show you that you can cancel some of those steps by click this the X one. Oh, okay, I already clicked X and then they already canceled some step. Then I should just close and load. Home, close and load this data back. So, and that's all for that question 3. Now we are in question number 4, the last one. So set external data properties. So what is this? For the transaction that we link to a database file. Now, the nature of the database is this. So database is usually run on database server, and it's normally a live system. So let's say a database of your company, then when there's new sales transaction, those data will feed from somewhere. So data in database will keep updating, it will keep adding. sometimes it is removed or sometimes it's modified. And we have a database because we want to centralize that, and people who want to interact, they can just connect to the database server. All right, cool. And we also connect to the database server on this transaction, right? Now, so since the nature of database is it could keep updating, right? So we want to make sure that we got new data from time to time. And this Excel just maintain a queries connection to database. So this question is basically want you to like adjust those like update frequency on that connection. So it would just like keep fetching new data from database. All right. So now we know what they want you to do. So with cell A1 click, again, they just want to make sure that you click somewhere in on the table. And then just go to data tab. And now this time there's queries and connections. Well, by the way, this guy is maintaining the connection to database, and we're just going to click properties. So in properties, this queries is called transaction. And then they just want you to click this one to do queries properties. So queries there, but we want to adjust something. So in properties, we want to refresh data when opening the files. You can even like have it refresh every 2 seconds if you want. Then that's work as well. But this one just asks you refresh when opening the file. And that's all. Click OK here, OK here. Now your data will keep refresh every time you open, or people can manually click this refresh all, which is mean going to fetch new data from database. All right, and that's all for this training number 1. Cool. Now, I will let you do number 2 and 3 on your own, and you're coming in Thursday. I will try to find like some quiz for in the class. Cool. All right. Any questions so far? No. All right. All right. I think I should end it now. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I will see you Thursday. Thank you. Thank you.